In this video, we're going to discuss the search engine optimization reports in Google Analytics. What is search engine optimization, or SEO? SEO is all about impacting how visible your website is in a search engine's organic results. For example, when someone searches Google for topics relevant to your website, does your website show up? And what search queries will cause your website to show up in a search, if any? And you can make changes to your site's technical setup as well as the content you offer on your site to improve how high your site ranks on a search. Everyone wants their website to be the top result on Google, and there are various ways to help you get there. We're not going to go into too much depth with how to work on your site's SEO in this course. That topic is too big for what we have time for, but I do want to show you the reports included in Google Analytics that will help you evaluate your SEO when you start making that a priority for your business. There are 3 reports dedicated to SEO, and they are the Queries Report, Landing Pages, and Geographical Summary. I'm currently in the Queries Report, which you can find in the Acquisition section under Search Engine Optimization. Earlier in the course, we discussed a dimension known as keywords. And as you may recall, keywords are the things users put into, say, a Google search that results in your website being shown as a Google search response. And the keywords dimension shows a list of keywords users used to find our site. The problem with that dimension is that Google is not displaying all keyword data any longer because they have put more of an emphasis on search privacy. So they've removed data on any search that comes from SSL, which are essentially encrypted searches on Google.com. Because the keyword data is going away, it's becoming harder for marketers to know what's happening on the search engine level. So we're here on the Queries Report. You might be a little bit confused. I just told you that keywords are essentially queries. Well, they're the words a user entered into Google that brought up your website. Well, the difference between the two is this. Queries just means that that's what your user has searched for, and the result of that search is your site link was displayed. It came up as an impression. But that doesn't mean anyone clicked on it. Keywords means that the queries resulted in someone actually clicking on your link. See the difference? So this queries report shows us what was searched and how many times it was searched in the time frame that we have selected. But that doesn't mean everyone that searched actually clicked and visited your site. But these reports still give us useful information, which we'll go through. Now, this is what the queries report looks like when you click on it. However, yours may not look like this at all. If you haven't set up your Webmaster Console, you will get this screen instead. The search engine optimization reports contain data that is aggregated from Webmaster Tools, so in order to view them, you need to get Webmaster Tools enabled. This isn't a very complex issue. What you do is just click on the link at the top of the page, and this brings you to the admin section of Google Analytics. Since I already have this enabled, I'll have to navigate myself, but it brings you into Property Settings. And then I have to choose Adjust Search Console. By the time you watch this, it may be called Search Console Settings instead of Webmaster Console or Webmaster Tools, but it's really the same thing. And here, you would follow the directions to enable your Search Console. But most likely, you'll have to choose Edit. And then down the bottom, there's a link to add a site to the Search Console. And this opens a window that gives us the opportunity to add a web property. Since I've already done this, I'm just going to cancel out, but just continue the process until your site has been configured, and I highly recommend that everyone set this up. Now, back to the queries report, and this is what you should see. It may take about 2 days for Google to populate the data for you. Google lags about 2 days behind, and even once you've had this configured for a while, you still won't be able to see the most recent 2 days of activity. So that's the overview of SEO reports. So let's start digging in a little bit deeper by going through the queries report. This report shows the search queries that generated the most impressions for your website's URL. Remember, an impression is just that your website URL has shown up on Google. It does not mean that anyone clicked on it. The top graph shows impressions per day, And you can see that impressions for this site peaked on November 16th with 37 impressions. The impressions sort of ebb and flow throughout the 30-day period I have selected. Now we can change impressions if we want as a metric to click-through rate, clicks and average position, but I like to look at this graph as impressions and then bring in some other metrics to show a comparison. You may notice that we don't have as many metrics to choose from in this report, and the reason for this is it's kind of an isolated section. The SEO reports don't really interact with the rest of Google Analytics, but we can choose average position, for example, and this is a cool one. The position is how high up in the search return does your site rank. The first position would be the best, and that would mean that your site is showing up at the top of Google, which means for this graph, the lower the number, the better. And as you can see, we have some days where our site ranks really close to the top on Google, and other days that it ranks pretty low. Your goal is to be as close to the top position, of course, but if you rank between 1 and 10, then that would at least put you on the first page. 11 to 20 is the second page, and so on. What we want to see is this number declining over time because that would indicate that our SEO is getting better. The next metric we can bring is click-through rate. And this is the percentage of times that someone clicks on the URL that's displayed in a search result. And these numbers are completely all over the map, but obviously you want your click-through rate, the higher the better. For this site, some days there's 100% click-through rate, which is a very high number. And this is not typical of a site with a lot of traffic. Normally, if you get a click-through rate of between 1 and 3%, you're doing pretty well. Let's scroll down to the table. And here we can see the actual searches that people put into Google that resulted in our website URL showing up. So we can see the total impressions we got over this time period, 305, the total clicks we received, which was 41, and the average position and click-through rate. As I mentioned, this is a pretty high click-through rate, which you would not expect from a site with a lot of traffic. A couple of things I should mention. Typically, a search query will only return one link from your site. In the case that it returns 2 links, it's the highest rank that counts. Also, like the graph above, there aren't that many ways that we can manipulate this data. There's only one secondary dimension, country, and this report is really about bringing in data from your webmaster tools. But knowing what people are searching for that results in an impression is a great thing. For instance, this is an engineer's website that does extensive custom sensor system design. And this is a valid search query that is bringing up our website. But unfortunately, our average rank with this search is 17th, which puts us on the second page. As you can see, we're getting 0 traffic from this. If I put a little bit of effort into adjusting our content, we could definitely raise our position in Google for this query and hopefully get more clicks. There are definitely ways to get actionable data from this report.